Welcome back to the show. Now we are speaking to Arundhati Sivagurunadan, and she's speaking to us about how you can deal with different behavioral aspects that you see in your child, because as a parent I'm sure that all our viewers out there would want to do the best for their child at the end of the day, and that's very important. And Arundhati will be with us in the coming weeks as well, and she will be speaking to all of us about different aspects of children's behavior. But right now, when we go back to our topic of low concentration in the classroom, and what about the subject matter that they are taught? And to keep a child interested, what can a teacher really do to engage a child and keep the focus always without letting the concentration slip?
Well, as I said before, a child first needs to be trained to focus. Right? Okay. So we can do so many things, but as I said, you start very slowly. If you can get your child to focus at least for 5 minutes a day without being disturbed by anything, I mean, naturally the child will progress on it. But we need to remember the activities which we do, whatever the curriculum we follow in schools, it has to be child friendly. Okay. And it has to be so many things like creativity, exciting stuff for the child to do, because eventually then what happens is the child will concentrate because he likes it so much.
Mm-hmm. So it's really about stimulating the child in different ways, is it?
Yes, always. You need to keep having a lot of ideas to keep them going. Mm-hmm. These are children, so you have to be on your toes.
All right, of course. And let's go on to the next topic that we'll be speaking about, which is dealing with a child who likes to express himself more creatively than academically. Now this is a concern for most parents, because at the end of the day, marks in the class do matter. Especially in Asian countries, we give a very high priority to achievement, and academic achievement is right up there with top priority for any parent. But what if your child is more into creatively expressing themselves than into the technical aspects of mathematics and science, things like that? So how do you identify your child's strengths?
Each child will have a different way of self-expression. Mm-hmm. So creativity and art helps the child develop. It's just that we just simply don't see it in that way, because as you said, we prioritize the academic aspect of it all the time. Mm-hmm. But creativity and art, what happens when a child, like for example, if the child is just painting a picture or playing with Play-Doh, what they are doing is expressing themselves visually. Mm-hmm. So when a child starts to express them visually, they become free thinkers. They do things freely. They love what they are doing, and they are experimenting. So all these adds on where the child develops naturally. Okay. So we need to give a preference into art and creativity. But as you said, even in early childhood education, we emphasize a lot on academic, right? Studies, that's like reading, writing, counting. I mean, that is fine. But personally, what I do is generally I would use all three aspects of the head, heart and the hands. These three aspects play along very well when you are working with children or anyone. So then the child learns to use their brains, they learn to use their hands and their heart, in the sense that they can really focus on what they do. What you are trying to do is make them love what they do, just without getting them to do what you want. So I feel creative, artistic approach plus academic should be combined together, so the child can express themselves freely, or self-expression will be more.
But then there's an aspect of things like sports and athletics, where some children focus solely on the games that they play, but they don't I mean as a sport, but they don't really focus on academics, and again this becomes a concern for parents. So what are your opinions on this, where a child is heavily involved in things like athletics?
Everything has to be balanced.
Balance is the key, is it?
Yes. Some children will generally they will always like to be like professional into sports, or like they like to have more active lifestyle rather than sitting and studying. But as a caregiver, as a parent or a teacher, you need to tell them you need both. You need to strike a balance somewhere. Maybe he or she might not get straight A's academically, but she might be the straight A student when he's swimming. But you have to show them you need both, because one is not enough. You need to create the balance.
Of course. And how do you find out what your child's strengths are? Because sometimes children, or even young adults for that matter, they have no clear path in life. They don't have it all mapped out. So parents try to do that or carry out that role, especially in their child's younger years. So how can you find out what your child's strengths are and where their interests really lie?
You can't. So as a parent or a caregiver or a teacher, what you do is you need to really sit and spend that quality time with your child, right? And number one rule is you cannot be too egocentric about yourself. What happens is most parents have goals set for their children by the time they are born, right? So if you are a doctor, you want the child to be a doctor.
My son will become an engineer one day.
Yes. So that is where it all goes wrong, because you have set and mapped everything into your child's life already, and everything what they do might not be good enough for you. So the key thing is to pinpoint what your child wants, right? Maybe the child will never be what you are, but you need to encourage them and get the strengths out of them and minimize the weaknesses.
Of course. And then there are also teachers who sort of try to push the child in directions that they don't want to go in. So then how can you as a parent deal with a teacher who is carrying out that sort of behavior to your child in school? Because that can be a very sensitive area to deal with. But so a lot of tact is involved, I'm guessing.
Yes, it is. But the thing is, the parent cannot really get involved with the school curriculum. But the parent always has the right to get involved in the child's life. So if a teacher is overstepping that line where the child is saying, look, I don't want to go to school anymore because I have so much of stress, I'm being pushed by my teacher. So that is a right of a parent to step and say, look, I don't think you need to push my child so much because he's refusing to come to school. So again, it's how involved you're in the child's life. And there's nothing you can't change if you are there for them.
But I'm going to ask you your personal opinion now, Arundhati. Do you find that parents are very involved in their work lives as well? And sometimes you find that both parents are working. And how do you think that they can really adjust their lives to pay a lot more attention to their children than they may be paying at the moment?
Well, to that question, I feel that especially in our culture, parents actually stop their life for children. They do go to work, but most of the time I think we are very lucky in our culture that especially the mother stays home to look after you. So if it's a busy parenting, that is fine. I mean, everyone needs to go to work because there are circumstances, right? So it's just that few hours you spend with the child should be qualitative. It's not like bringing a toy and playing with him or whatever. You need to sit and have that chat with that child, or you need to check his behavioral patterns, whether he's behaving adequately or is he doing something wrong. And that few hours you're there, if you really focus, I really don't think anyone will be that busy not to focus on their child, at least during a weekend.
Of course. Yes. So, and while focusing on the child, you may also find that there are certain symptoms of the child that you find to be a learning disability. So we have the rest of the clip that we gave for you at the beginning of this show, so let's go and check it out.
I know that your school is assisting parents and teachers in coping up with learning disabilities. Can you tell us a little bit more about your school?
The Victory Special Studies Center helps children who cannot do the normal curriculum due to medical problems or physical problems or some kind of stress or family problems. They cannot go to normal schools, but they can study and can do exams. They can get to their future only through proper education. We are running the center for students who need education in a different setup.
At what age should parents seek professional help?
As early as possible. Whenever they find that the child is having a certain problem, they have to start the remedial process, because early intervention is important in learning disabilities. Otherwise, it may lead to some other conduct disorders, or it might also lead to ADHD.
How can, for instance, if a child is having learning disabilities, how can parents, siblings in the family, caregivers, teachers, how can all of them help in whatever environment that the child is living in?
Children with learning disabilities suffer a lot of problems related to social skills, finding difficulty in playing activities, etc. Parents and siblings may accept their problems related to study, social activities and emotional factors. The reality should be accepted. We should not neglect or dominate them. We have to help them overcome their problems.
It was a pleasure having you with us today, Nitya, and we learned a lot about learning disability, and I hope that the message goes across to most parents and caregivers. Really appreciate your visit here with us, and thank you very much.